Welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation about Freemasonry.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our thoughts and opinions are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions via our website at theworkingtoolspodcast.com.
Welcome. This episode, we're have the company of our most worshipful Grand Master for the province of British Columbia and Yukon, most worshipful Grand Master Don MacKenzie. With him tonight, we have the Grand Director of Ceremonies, Right Worshipful Brother Rick Causey, and down south, we have Very Worshipful Brother David Colbeth from King Solomon number 60. And our regular announcer, Very Worshipful Brother Matt Appel from Mill Creek number 243 in Washington. And last but not least, Worshipful Brother Jarrod Dunham from Penticton number 147. Oh, and I guess, yep, that's me, Worshipful Brother Stephen Chung from Prince Charles number 153 in Kelowna, British Columbia. Good night, brethren. Thanks for making time to come and join us for the podcast. Tonight, we're dedicating this one for Most Worshipful Brother Don MacKenzie. He's wrapping up his year as, or his term, let's say, as the Most Worshipful Grand Master for the province of British Columbia and the Yukon. Welcome, Most Worshipful, and this floor is yours to spread any message you want, or just ask questions and get into good conversation.
Oh, I'd like to get into the good conversation, Stephen, but some would say that I haven't had a good couple of years, but I have actually had a good couple of years. I just want everybody to know that. It's been trying from time to time, but all in all, I feel like I haven't been gypped out of what I wanted to accomplish, because we've got lots done just the same. And I think our craft has come out of this pandemic stronger than we went into it. And that was my goal when we first started. If you remember, the first meeting we had was in, I think it was in June of 2020. And I even stated that at that time. And I think we've done it, you know?
Yeah, I believe you have.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was just sheer perseverance and being stubborn. But yeah, we've had a nice term. Yes, it could have been better. We could have got out and done more visiting, but we also did some unusual things this year. We had a lot of first ofs, you know.
And so, speaking of the first ofs and the things that made your term good, what stands out for you?
Well, I think that the first ofs were we had the very first District Deputy Grand Masters training session. And to date, we'll have had, by the time Grand Lodge rolls around here in June, we'll have had 24 monthly meetings with the district deputies. And I think that has been fantastic. It's really kept the district deputies together during these crazy times. And I think they were probably kept more abreast of what was going on than most of the brethren. And so the reason for that was so that they would be able to, when things changed, they'd be able to move quickly. And I'm very proud that we managed to pull that off, if you will. But it's been a good 23 months, I guess it is. So,
what kind of information is distributed at those kind of meetings? Is it special for the district deputy grand masters, separate from any other communication, or is it just, like as you say, kind of keeping them informed of what's happening so they can distribute?
Well, usually there's a 3-day course in Abbotsford where we bring them all in there and they get to meet each other personally. And that's a great process. They usually pick up a couple of brethren that they really bond with. And so then they go to their districts, whether it's close or far away, and support each other. That's happened. But this year here, they've had the opportunity to get to know each other online, where sometimes they wouldn't even get a chance to do that if they didn't do a whole bunch of traveling. So I think it's been very beneficial. Mostly what we were doing, David, is trying to keep them ahead of the health rulings that the province was putting out. As British Columbia was locked down tighter than Washington was, for sure. And so we had different challenges than what you guys had. And I think on one of my other meetings, we said that we tried to follow our constitution, and we couldn't do any constitutional amendments till we had a Grand Lodge, and we haven't had one. This will be going on 3 years.
Wow.
Since we've had a Grand Lodge to do any business. And we just thought at that time it was better to follow the Constitution, and hopefully we can get some constitutional amendments done at either this Grand Lodge or the following one, so that maybe we'd be able to be a little more nimble to move forward from time going forward, right? So,
yeah, I know you mentioned in one of our conversations that it was, I have a phrase I say, there's a seed of equal or greater benefit in every adversity. I stole it from somebody, I don't know. And I think you were talking about that idea that because of this virtual platform, you've been able to travel to places that you wouldn't maybe have been able to travel, and brethren, you pop into a meeting and all of a sudden they're having their meeting and, oh, here's the Grand Master.
yeah, we did that lots this year. I think the most Zoom meetings I ever had one night was 6. I did 6 Zoom meetings, and that would have been not necessarily an evening, but I might have had a meeting with the principal officers in the morning and maybe a committee meeting during the day. But I've done 3 or 4 meetings at night from, say, like 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock. And some of them I just popped in. If they were starting a bit early, I'd pop in a bit early and just say, I've got to go to another meeting, but I just wanted to stop in and see if you guys had any questions. We'd answer some questions, and then we'd say, well, we got to go, guys. And it was very well received from the districts. It really was.
That's great. And would you do that on your own, or would you have I know that it's familiar for you normally bring a suite of people with you, kind of an entourage, and even deputy Grand Masters do that, or deputy district deputies. They bring us, as Steve called it, a suite and of guys that come along to visit. Would it just be you, or would you have several people with you?
Well, quite often the whole Grand Line would go, and that would really blow their mind, But,
Yeah.
We just did it on a casual basis, and I think it was very beneficial for having them be able to just ask us questions point blank, and sort of like a town hall meeting is what we're having.
Yeah, and another highlight, you just had the 150th celebration Cornerstone laying, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a great weekend, other than we all got sick. Yeah, we did a cornerstone and a Masonic plaque ceremony that we initiated this year here for the 150th year, where buildings of any historical significance have a QR code on them. The person in the public can scan the QR code and get the history of the lodge and actually follow around the whole province and follow the Masonic Trail in British Columbia and Yukon.
Right. And who's the guy in charge of that, or decides which lodges are going to get the plaques? Who do we put somebody in touch with who's wondering when they get in plaque for their lodge?
Well, Brother Bill Bishop is doing a lot of that work. And he's done a great job so far this year. We've managed to do, I think I've managed to do 4 or 5 in person. And plus we gave your lodge one, Stephen, when you're up in your district, and the district deputy will do that ceremony. We did one in Peachland, and we did one in Kamloops because they weren't quite ready yet.
Right. And yeah, we had another lodge in our district say, hey, that's really cool. Can we get one? And so we said we'd find out who to point them to.
Which lodge was that, Stephen?
Vernon. Vernon Masonic Hall has got quite the history there for.
Is that Miriam?
Miriam 20 and Kalamalka 160.
I think they were contacted before, actually.
Because
Miriam does have pretty interesting history.
Yeah, they do. But I know they've had a change of officers and a change of secretaries and whatnot too. So I'll point them towards Bill Bishop, and they'll get things underway, I'm sure.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. Anything else or Rick, were you about to say something?
There was two things. Number one, do you have Bill Bishop's email address?
Not yet.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat for you.
Perfect.
And the second thing that the Grand Master hasn't mentioned yet is the other first that was really well received is the virtual official visits that we conducted, and we had
17.
17 of them that were conducted, and they ranged anywhere from 100 to 155 attendees online.
Wow.
I was going back to that one, Rick, that you said that was
Okay.
100, 150 or 155.
Yeah.
I think it was over 170 because you didn't even get them all introduced that one meeting.
That's
You
correct.
should have seen that evening. There was Rick and my Grand Marshal and 2 or 3 guys from the technology committee that were there assisting to rename brethren and put them into breakout rooms so they could be properly introduced. At the one point of the one meeting, there was so many people trying to sign into the meeting to start with and get renamed. There was sheer terror on the look of Rick's face, Bill's face. I wish I would have had a copy of that.
Yeah, that was challenging to keep up to changing the names because like even though you give out the instructions ahead of time, having somebody to rename themselves, on a application that they're not even going to use until they go to get on that meeting, right? It made it very challenging for our committee to do that. But I know that we did enjoy the fact that we were able to get most of it done for you and get you through these things. That was awesome.
But
Oh,
that particular meeting, sorry, Rick, that particular meeting, there was grandmasters from some of the Western provinces, Washington, I believe Oregon, California. Grandmaster California brought 14 of his Grand Line officers to attend that meeting with him after they had a meeting of their own. So I don't think we ever got half of those Grand Line officers in there either, Rick. So
No, that's true. And the one thing I wanted to say out of all of it with the virtual official visits, it could not have happened and it could not have proceeded with each one of them getting better and better without the technology committee. They, if there was an issue, it was like they had pre-thought it and had the answer and we were moving along. And we even went from having breakout rooms to having hospitality suites. So, which was, and the brethren really enjoyed that because the model that came out of that was, yes, we're going to have you in a hospitality suite. The drinks are on the house. And of course, those are the drinks that you have in your house. So everybody enjoyed it.
One comment from one of the past grandmaster or a grandmaster that was on there. He said, I've never been to a meeting like this. It was more like a television production rather than a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Quite a compliment, actually.
Steve Anston and our whole committee was working really hard when all of a sudden we had to figure out how to make some things happen. And like you say, Steve did a pretty good job of pre-thinking a lot of things and trying to be a good Boy Scout and prepared in advance, right? So that did make it go a lot smoother for sure.
Well, as did you and Chris Crota.
Mm-hmm.
The teamwork was incredible.
Yep. And Chris was great. I sent him a tablet. He got that set up and we sent it out to Most Worshipful Brother Bill Ferguson, so he was able to get on several meetings. He's not doing Zoom anymore because he's back to doing cancer treatments and he's not up to it. But he was really thankful for that opportunity to be able to join you guys on some of those meetings that he'd been missing so much.
We had one of those meetings, Stephen, where it was his birthday. We all sang Happy Birthday as terrible as we sang it.
Yeah, I kind of remember that night and I thought, yep, we sing it that bad in Lodge too.
We do, but without the time lags.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yes. And I'll tell you the just the fact that the Grand Lodge was willing to go that route and push forward with all these things, I think it made a big difference for a lot of the lodges that were really sitting back doing nothing until they had the opportunity to partake in these types of things that were being built for them, because some of them didn't have guys that had enough technology background to get Zoom meetings going for their lodges and such, right?
Mhm.
So it was really good. I was really pleased with the avenue the Grand Lodge took with the Zoom meetings.
So we might not have been able to visit all the lodges for the 2 years we were in office, but I think we probably got at least the 23 districts done once. We might have missed a couple of them. And that would have been just because perhaps they didn't have proper internet where they were or whatever. So
Right.
but it's not for lack of trying. So
Right. Any other highlights that jump out for you in your term?
yeah, I was just writing my going out address, and I had a few in there, so I don't have them at the tip of my tongue, Stephen. But yes, there was
Okay.
lots of firsts. We did lots of firsts. That was probably quite something, having the first ever district deputy training session and monthly meetings. I think that was probably one of the best things we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's been quite the challenge for you, Rick, to kind of coordinate all the things you would normally do in a new fashion all of a sudden.
Well, prior to the pandemic, I was lovingly referred to as the techno idiot because I needed everybody to help me. And towards the end of it, I was feeling actually pretty comfortable getting things done. Grandmaster is right. There were some moments there where it was not so much terror, but the realization that we were not gaining ground on the people that were entering the meetings, and we needed to identify and get into a waiting room. That's for sure. The monthly DDGM meetings was a concept that we took on, and they worked out quite well. We also minute them. So
Yeah,
like
in
going
the
back to
past,
David's.
in the past, you would only have like those quarterly or something, right? With the DDGMs.
Normally what would happen is you would have the orientation training, and then everybody be on their own, and you'd meet them again when you were on the road, and again at Grand Lodge. So,
Right.
like in that regard, like Grandmaster's right, there were a lot of firsts, but the beauty about the DDGM online meetings is that they also included all the Grand Line Lodge officers. They were all invited, the very worshipables, the current Grand Line secretary and the treasurer, to come on board. And our deputy Grand Master is going to keep those meetings going during his term of office. So there is value in that. And so kudos go to our Grand Master for encouraging those meetings.
Wasn't so much encouraging, Rick. It was our only alternative to keep them together.
Yeah.
And I think we did that. So I'm kind of proud of that.
Yeah, we had lots of guest speakers come in and deliver different pieces. We were able to keep the DDGMs and the other Grand Lodge officers on track with the 150th celebration. The closer we got, the more we were doing through that. Like I said, those minutes were minuted. They were the following month after they had been sent out. They were moved and seconded. So we had quite the orderly flow to conducting those meetings. Agendas were sent out in advance, so that was always good too.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a normal director of ceremonies term, but it definitely kept me engaged and involved in everything the Grand Line was doing for the entire 2 years.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten to do a lot of traveling that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten to do if it hadn't been for all these Zoom meetings popping up everywhere. And feedback I got was it was nice to have the BC online calendar so that we could have it where people could access it from anywhere and be able to join meetings all over the place. There wasn't a ton of feedback that way, but to hear the odd one come back, that was just enough to make it worthwhile doing that little venture in the first place, right?
Are you going to keep it up?
Oh yes, oh yeah. I've been working with Steve. I got to get control of one of the email addresses, calendar at Freemasonry, etc. And but so far, District 9 and District 10, they're back on the email program. Send us all their notices so I can update the calendars. I had a fellow that came and dropped off his petition at our meeting a couple of months back. He called me up and he said, "Hey, that calendar, it says there's a meeting tonight. Can I come for that?" And I said, "Nah, not until you're a regular member, but we could have you come for the social part after the festive board." And he showed up and whatnot, and it was all because he caught it on the calendar and had time, and so he inquired, right? We're starting to get a few of the younger guys out there. Actually, through this, a lot of the older fellows now have cell phones. They've asked to be on the text messaging program, and they've asked to be informed of the things that are going on in our two districts, right? So we got a guy down in District 10 who's he's a secretary of a couple of lodges. He's now taken on the management of making sure that District 10's calendar is up to date. So I only have to worry about District 9, right? And I'm hoping that more districts get active with it. Happy to give them the support and direction. But I think it's a very worthy program, and it's a shame that it's not more widely adopted. But who knows? Maybe the experiences of the last couple of years will make it more valuable to others.
Well, I think so, and I think a resource that you might be able to tap into is the designated DDGMs, because they would be able to get the lodge notices from the current DDGM. And maybe they can put something together, and then you have the one point of contact for each one of the districts.
Right.
So
perfect. I'll work on that.
I don't know what Washington did, David. What did Washington do when they were locked down for that time? Did they have many online meetings?
Yeah, there was lots and lots of online meetings. Our Grand Master had an open forum that he regularly had, usually monthly. And then, of course, all the district meetings have been online. Even now that we're back in person, they've continued to have the district meetings online just to facilitate that travel. And I think it's been a real boon for that. I think people, again, have been able to attend. And a lot of guys have said they've been able to attend district meetings across the state that they wouldn't normally be able to. And right. So it's really neat how it's become so ubiquitous, the technology, where, just 3 years ago, it's hard to remember, just 3 years ago, even on this show, if we were going to have you on as a guest, as the techno geek, or the techno idiot, as Rick was saying, whatever, I was the one that would contact the guest and say a week ahead of time at least, and say, okay, do you have a microphone? Do you have a camera? Does this all work? We'd test it all out a week ahead of time to make sure it worked, and then we'd come to the show, and inevitably Murphy, there would always be something wrong with the technology. And then when the pandemic hit, about 2 months into it, people were asking for the Zoom. They said, "Oh, you just click on Zoom," and you didn't even have to do anything. Everybody had it set up now, so it's kind of been neat for us too.
Another thing we had was lots of education meetings. We had some really good lodges that stepped up, and they had education nights, and there was people attending from all over North America, Scotland, England. It was really quite. We started, like you said, we started this thing, and people would never have had the know-it-all, the know-all to set up a meeting or even get onto a meeting. And some of the stuff that the lodges did during that 1 year there. Amazing. Totally amazing.
I'd like to know more about that. Also, I'd like to know about your website, your Begin You website, and that response. Maybe if you're able to stay on for another segment, we'd love to have you join us again, and we could ask some more questions. I've always got some questions to ask.
Sure.
If you guys are okay with that,
that'd be great, because I've got some questions about that too. I understand that we have some very positive numbers we could share in that next episode. So, I think if everybody can stick around, that'd be awesome. Thank you, everybody, for making the time tonight. And that'll wrap up this episode. And we'll come back with a follow-up part 2 episode with the Most Worshipful Grandmaster, Most Worshipful Brother Don MacKenzie.